And we are live. Welcome everyone to this edition of the Jitsi community call. As usual, we'll do a roundtable with updates from our team, and then we'll move on to open mic. I'll start. I don't have much to say, except we've been running this A/B test, trying to see whether users prefer to use the suspend video option that Chrome has or not. So we have two groups, and that test is running on me, Jitsi, right now. We have two groups, one in which suspend video is enabled, which means that if the bandwidth drops too low, sending a video will be suspended altogether. While the other has the option off, which means that if the bandwidth is low, we're going to send very low bitrate video, and it's usually very, very choppy and low res. So we have enough data now, and we're comparing the feedback that people give after the meeting. And so far, we're unable to detect the difference, which probably means that comparing the feedback isn't the best possible option because it depends on so many other things that it's hard to get any signal there. So for the time being, after the next update, the test will be disabled and suspend video option will be kept enabled. That's it for the test. I'm still working on cascading bridges. I know I've promised for a while to make a presentation about it, but we have decided to hold on until we actually have an implementation to talk about. And this work is progressing, but I don't want to give any promises, but soon we should be able to present something. All right, so let's move to the next person. George, do you want to go?
Yeah, so I was working on finishing send-side bandwidth estimations in the bridge. Most of the work is done. There is a PR open that is reviewed by Boris. It's not. I'm still debugging issues with. The last thing I found is that Chrome is very picky about the SSRCs that we put in the RTCP packets that we send with the transport feedback messages. So they're being ignored, and the send side bandwidth estimation basically doesn't run, and we're not ramping up. So I'm working on that. I think I'm going to have a fix for that this week. And I'm also reviewing the latest changes in Chromium's implementation about the bandwidth estimations, because we have well, during GSOC we had some progress with implementing the absolute send time bandwidth estimator, but they have improved things a lot and they have changed stuff since then. So I'm going to be reviewing that and see how we can port these changes back to the bridge. That's basically for me.
Damien?
So I've been working on mostly two things. One of them is implementing the Wi-Fi stats. So co-stats have added a function to add the callback there. I still haven't pushed my changes, but this will work on mobile and Jitsi Meet Electron. Pushing the current Wi-Fi connection statistics, so we can see when the Wi-Fi gets back, and maybe we can one day add an UI notifications for that. Also, I've been working around Jibri SIP rooms and adding some improvements in the Jitsi itself, in Jikofu, in the library, and now I'm adding the UI part of it. So this should be soon pushed. That's it.
Christo, are you there?
Yes. Oh, so I was working mainly on our always on top feature for the Electron app. Picked some, yeah. What I'm doing is trying to fix some bugs. Basically, some of them are fixed. Probably I'm gonna continue fixing some other bugs. The main ones were that our toolbar there were not showing. Uh, the it was basically not the always on top window was not displayed on some windows. Also on Windows and Linux, the window was not clickable. Basically, this thing that I need to still fix. Yeah, and there, I mean, the list is big, so there's still a lot of work to do there. That's all.
Yuval?
So, what I've been busy with in the last 2 weeks. So, we worked on UI related improvements. We now keep the film strip on the short side of the display, so even in landscape mode, you've got this vertical film strip like the web. We listen to feedback from people, and now we toggle the toolbox on top instead of like automatically hiding it, which some people didn't like. We fixed a lot of bugs. We introduced a lot of crashes and then we fixed them. Yeah, but the net result is that now we have less crashes than when we started fixing them. So it's a plus. So we worked on adding device audio output selection. That's in as well. Pavel started working and will continue to work on finally bringing testing to the mobile apps. One day this testing will hopefully become like the torture testing and the automatic PR testing that we have. Hopefully one day we'll get there. But he's very positive about the results so far. Nothing has been committed in master, but we're close to having a first PR there. So do you want to add anything else?
Not really. That pretty much sums it up. I also started working. Oh yeah, one thing. I also started working on bringing the overlays from the web for the mobile. It's not ready yet, so I'm still working on it. That's pretty much all.
That's all from us, Bobby.
All right. Aaron, you're here, right?
Yeah, I'm here. So mostly the work I've been doing has been totally unrelated. I did a little bit of improvements on the Jitsi to make it try to restart Chrome when Chrome freezes before just failing entirely. So now we have 3 restarts of Chrome before we give up entirely in Jitsi. I think that's about it. I've been working with Damien to improve some of the other parts of the Jitsi Jikofu discussion, and hopefully that'll be hitting pretty soon. I think that's about it for our side.
All right. I see we have Brian here.
Yeah, I've been working on implementing Flex FEC in the bridge for the receive side, and got things working where I think all the tests will look good on Friday. All the canned tests I have, so I'm going to do a little code cleanup and then start doing some tests with actual calls today, and hopefully that will be pretty close to being able to be ready to go in.
All right, we're missing Pavel and Lenny.
Pavel's He wouldn't join. That's why I talked about his.
Okay. Lenny, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Last couple weeks, I believe, I've mainly been focused on miscellaneous bug fixes for Jitsi and libjitsi and I think I'm just going to continue with that.
So I don't think Yana and Emil are not here. Nick is not here, so I think we're done. I really hope I'm not missing anyone. Doesn't seem so. So open mic, and there's already a question in the chat from Henry asking about Firefox 57. He says he couldn't join the meeting. I'm not aware of any issue, but perhaps someone else is. I don't think anyone is aware of an issue, but I guess we'll look into it.
I just joined with 57 and I saw some video and then it went black.
Henry, could you be more specific as to what happened when you tried to join?
For what is worth, it ended up loading and it's working, though I see some problems with our toolbar. Sorry, with our film strip. I can't seem to be able to scroll it properly.
Yeah, my results were about the same. This is Henry with Firefox. I'm able to join with Chrome on the same Mac High Sierra.
Yeah, I think we have a bug, at least on the film strip. Like, I joined and I see the videos, but I can't scroll to see myself at the top, which is bizarre.
Yeah, the Firefox film strip broke with the invite button implementation a while ago.
Oh, okay, so we kind of knew.
Has it been fixed in beta?
I don't think so.
No, not that I know of. I don't think anyone's looking into that right now. The Firefox film strip issue specifically, no one is looking into it.
Okay. Henry, could you please open a GitHub issue for this so we have somewhere to track it? All right. Any more questions?
Hey guys. I think Della was here, or maybe still is here. We had a chat earlier today, and we noticed that you can run OauthMe against a server that requires authentication or against a server that doesn't require authentication, like this one. And if you run it against a server that does require authentication, you get a nice pop-up requiring you to fill out your username and password. Can you use authentication even if the server doesn't require it? Can you make it use your user instead of an anonymous user? Is there a way to do that?
I can think of one way, but you'd have to set some local storage values that it would try to use to log you in. So okay. It's not like there's a UI that you can pop that just says log me in as this user or whatever. You'd have to set a couple hidden local storage values at the moment.
You were breaking up at the important bit.
I see. So I'm saying there's no UI for it, but there are some local storage values that we will use to try to log in if they're set.
Right. So that would mean client side, you could force it by tweaking yourself.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Could you pop a couple of those names in the chat so that I can refer?
I'll paste them to you shortly.
Okay, thanks.
I guess Pavel might know better about this question. So you might want to also send an email to the mailing list.
Okay, thanks.
Jose asked whether there's an estimate for the next stable release.
Yeah, we're still doing it by hand, and we can push the current Jitsi release to stable. I remember something was broken, but I don't remember what was that. But yeah, the current Jitsi release is a candidate for pushing to stable. We've been running it for a week here, so probably I'll push it today.
Any more questions? Jose asks, how do I enforce lower quality on the calls on P2P? Why would you want to do that?
Let me try to talk. I think it's better. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So basically, where I'm standing, the quality is most of the times really bad, and I don't know if it's jitter or what is it, but you jump very frequently from a very good connection to a very poor connection, and this makes the experience very bad. So if I enforce it to, I don't know, 400 bits or something like that, it would probably provide a better experience to the end user. So I would like to test it. I'm not sure if it's possible.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's a way with Jitsi to do it right now, but you can. It shouldn't be too hard to modify some of the components to plug in a maximum bitrate in the SDP. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do that in SDP. But for peer-to-peer, it's really a simple scenario where you are only sending towards one person using one transport path. So the congestion control really has a chance to adapt to that. And there's no complications such as bridge sending to multiple people and there being multiple paths and simulcast and all that. So I really expect peer-to-peer to work well and for this to not be necessary. But yeah, of course, it's a valid thing to look into and test. I don't know if George has some comments here.
No, just if you really want to do that, you can also cap the resolution in the config.js.
So that the config.js will cap the resolution independently of the user connection.
Yes.
Which one is it? Because there are two options.
There are three options. Last time I checked, there was one option. There's a resolution option.
Another is two of them because there's the new Chrome option as well. So if you're testing with a recent Chrome like 62, you need to update the new resolution option. I believe we documented what option it is for each specific case. Let me check real quick. Constraints. This thing called constraints, you need to update that if you're testing with Chrome, the new one, like 62 or better.
By the way, we don't.
Otherwise, resolution is the one.
By the way, we don't have it in the Jitsi config.js file. I don't know if we need that though there.
No, we don't need it because by default is undefined, which means 1080p. Which is set internally. But if you look at the config.js from the repo, you will see how it looks like internally, but it's commented out. So you can uncomment it and set the like ideal 480, maximum 480, for example, and that will mean that you cap the resolution to VGA for all calls. But you can see if that has any impact, for example.
Thanks. I would have one more question. So when the connection starts to be choppy, there's this message that shows up. And this somehow disturbs users as well. So I think you mentioned you were somehow A/B testing something similar, but have you considered about A/B testing or having an option to disable the Jitsi user is having a bad connection message? Because I think the users would rather prefer to see something choppy than don't see nothing at all. At least that's our complaints, because this messaging is showing up all the time.
I'm not aware of any discussions on this topic, so.
I'm curious about the. I'm sorry.
So go ahead.
I was curious about the network conditions. It looks like it behaves extremely poorly. Like what's the network that you're testing on? Where's your server located? Could it be maybe you need to implement some prioritization, or maybe your users are downloading stuff when they have calls, and this is going to lead to some bad experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our servers are in Amazon, São Paulo, okay? And most of our users are in Brazil. The problem is I don't control the users' network because we're basically a marketplace for video calls, okay, between a user and a professional that provides emotional advice, let's say. So we don't control users' connection. That's why, and it's always peer-to-peer. So we recently implemented the turn servers. So we're not even using the video bridge anymore, theoretically, unless there's some issue. It falls back to it. But the complaints are that the screen is appearing a lot of times, and when they compare it, let's say, to Skype, they say, sometimes the connection gets choppy, but at least I don't see it stopping. So this is the perception that they get. I understand. It gives you a notion that there is an issue, but I would say users rather have low connection or bad image rather than no image at all.
I'm wondering whether peer-to-peer is actually used or not. Maybe your calls. Have you checked? Have you verified that are truly peer-to-peer? That the peer-to-peer.
Those specifically not. Those specifically not.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Those specific calls I didn't check, so I cannot assure that they were peer-to-peer.
But if in general peer-to-peer works, I would find it hard to believe that it doesn't work for specific calls. So, because since you have turn servers, even if the direct connection fails, it will go through the turn server. So there's no reason to go. If you have a sample, if you make an experiment and you connect in peer-to-peer mode, then it should work for your users as well. So, but have you done such an experiment? Have you tested your setup and have you seen the peer-to-peer connection being active and used?
Yes, I have. What I haven't seen, like, it didn't happen with me, so I was not able to reproduce it. But sometimes you get screenshots, and it was the previous version of Jitsi. So I didn't ask the users to go there and show me whether they were using peer-to-peer or not. So it's a guess, but I can do more tests and let you guys know next time.
Yeah.
It does sound to me like this is basically a modification to the UI that you propose might be something that different people want in different environments to have different values. So unfortunately, Yana is not here to confirm because she's the one who mostly works on the UI, but I think we should be able to accept contributions towards making this configurable.
Okay, cool.
You might want to put an email just to get a better feeling though.
Sure, I'll follow up on that. I have one more question. Sorry, guys. I have a few questions. So it's my first call. That's why I have a few questions. I've seen recently that there's this option for the deployment info on the config.js. Is it something specific for you guys? Is it something that we can use as well? What is it for? Sorry, but I couldn't find any info about that.
That's a good question. It's a fairly new feature, and I don't think we've written a ton about it. The basic idea is that each client can request this file from the instance and learn a little bit more about where it's located and maybe some details about the deployment that could then be used for analytics. So we use it internally to, for instance, report back which Amazon region are you actually working with when you're having a call, so that the client statistics that we send back for our own tracking can include that information. So it's sort of meant to be a dynamic place on the server where you can set some client analytics variables, but I believe it could be overridden for any number of things, which is why we've sort of left it empty and open and included it in the open source version for use however you wish.
Okay, then I would have a follow-up question, which is similar, which is the analytics part. So is it strictly to Atlassian, or could we use for our own purposes?
And this goes a little bit outside of my experience with it, but my understanding is basically, I believe that the Google Analytics side of it is already implemented and available, and that if you had your own analytics engine you would want to throw into, that it's extensible such that you could write your own little wrapper that would throw your analytics events into whatever you like. And that could then include this metadata from deployment info.
Okay, makes sense.
And so if you want to look at how the Google Analytics one's implemented and then extend it from there, or if you have specific questions, you can probably come to a call or email on the list or something else, and we might be able to help you with examples.
Perfect.
Any more questions?
There's another one in the chat there.
So there's a question in the chat that references a report about the logon dialog disappearing with some webcams. I don't know. Do we have an update for this?
You mean the logging, like the username password disappearing when the permissions are requested?
Yes. And
this is not fixed yet. I also reported it. And it's on, I think Yana was going to work on it. I'm not sure if this week or the next. But it's not fixed as of yet.
It's interesting that that's a bug that appears to be specific to a certain brand of webcam, which confuses me a lot.
I haven't seen it. I mean, it's a race condition. So I think it may have to do with how fast the driver is to open it or not. For example, in Chrome, because it remembers permissions in a slightly different way, if you say yes to the camera and reload the page, you continue just fine, but not on Firefox, for example. So I could reproduce it with several webcams. I have a few Microsoft one, a Logitech one, and it happens to me in all of them. So hopefully we get that fixed soon, but it's not fixed yet.
Okay, thanks.
Questions? All right. Looks like there's no more questions. That was an interesting meeting. A lot of topics that we covered here. So thanks everyone for coming and for bringing up those questions. We appreciate that. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks
See you in
for
2
that.
weeks.
See you guys.